into connecting, like Bloom Network, you know, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would
They
love
have
to.
done a lot now after, yes, the restructuring, the Bloom Network. They have done, yes, like they have changed a lot. So I would love, yes, to connect with all these people.
I believe you have been following, or you're more up to date on all of these fronts. It's just, I believe before next summer, I
It's
would
like
definitely
information
love
comes
to get back into and somehow connect this with Turkey. That
Okay.
would be cool.
Okay, great.
So
Yes.
yeah.
I'm saying that
I like
everything
it.
comes to me without me even just looking, so that's great.
Yeah. Hey, John.
Hi.
So
Sava,
I am.
Sava, how are you doing?
Ça va? No, so I'm just climbing the stairs to my apartment, but I really try to catch up on the conversation about interdisciplinary that I really would love to contribute to, and that's so much important to me in this region future world, is to really foster interdisciplinary and develop tools and methodologies for that. But it's so hard to catch up all the conversations.
Yeah.
But I'm trying.
Especially on Maya, maybe, because we are doing so many things. But yeah. Send them.
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
The only advice that I can give, it's not wise, but just not, no FOMO. Like the normal thing is you're missing out on so many good things that are going on all the time. It's just about catching the flow, or jumping back into the river. It's never the same. That's approximately the feeling. But when I also always experience that when the timing is right, then connections happen, or things move forward, and then they hibernate again, and so on. So it's really interesting.
Right.
But
so
you
wise.
never, like when I hear, for example, when Durgadas, for example, stresses out about not that it's, or everyone stresses about that it's really hard to catch up and so on. And imagine most of us are doing this with the remainder of our time, right? More or less, between day jobs and contracts and what have you. So I think that's a typical feeling.
Yeah, but this is why sometimes a practice, I mean, I feel that like there's maybe some possibilities for a kind of practice that would be like an encounter to start prototype experiment, in a very, yes, not only the conversation, but what would be these methodologies.
But concretely, in your case, right? Or
kind of concretely, yes, but that's why.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll try to propose something in this direction. I just wanted to bring my contribution on the topic to the Consilience Library, which I hadn't done yet. But I have the references that are in my computer for a long time. But and all this vision about that. And yes, this is what I really like with artistic or art research practice, is that we can really prototype in a very wild way, but it's also creating some content, like it's also, it can end to like serious methodologies, but then we prototype in a different way than just, I'm a bit tired of very interesting project that you have so many conceptual text to read about, especially that I found one this morning again about regen everything, but it's super conceptual and so much text. While if we experiment in a more artistic way, then we can be it can be a bit more like action, and or
Yeah.
that's why, yeah.
No, that's interesting. And you know that we, with the token engineering consciousness library, we're at the stage where I think we really need to have this design doc that technical people can take responsibility for delivering and so on. But I mean, I am open, and most others are also open to really experiment continuously alongside. It's just I believe we need to just be more clear about people's expectations and their understanding. What I'm trying to, I think what I would love is that, that there is a clear path that people, are like, I'm confused, and you can just show them this is the process, like every other project development process. This is it. Don't be confused, or if you're confused, go there and you will have every description. But that we still in parallel continue these explorations. I would definitely, second that.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, like the more concrete, of course, the better. Like if you have more concrete ideas about taking what is currently available from T-Conscience library, where we're headed, like how this could be helpful. Never hesitate to put it on the agenda or in the topic bucket. Like today,
Okay.
I wanted to go through this topic bucket again, and then we use it. The T-Conscience library is definitely continuous, like happening, and we'll see this through for sure. Definitely something. And the other, actually for today and next week, again, next week it's more concrete. We have Gideon participating. Currently, they
Yes,
are,
this curation service, which is something that
yeah.
can be developed through the library. I was just going through the sample group, so I feel like they're trying to develop something we can provide with the library. So this is something, yeah, if he's going to be here next week, that's nice.
Exactly. We can go into, my understanding is, and I have not heard much about it either, but um, that it's basically a tool for community curation. And we might you make the T-Conscience library a use case, like how could we, something like a parallel prototype or so, or something that we can use in between. And it, of course, depends on the state of development there. How can it be used, and is it really useful for us? What I can imagine is that we could share parts of curations with it, just to make some noise around the Conscience library at the very least. That would be both helpful for token engineering commons, content-wise, and also for getting more visibility into the really cool curations that we have already and that we're planning to. So things like that we can discuss next week. And as you know, the work is asynchronously in the chats and so on. Yeah, and today I just happy that Letty is also here. Matt joins, Steph is also here. So I think that you're the only one we haven't heard yet. Feedback to this basically this post, or this should be the post in working group Omega and the Token Engineering Commons forum. And more or less, looking back the past 2 years since the very, very early start to our intention and how we wanted to open the space about finding token engineering ethics and ethos. that we continue that. And there I wanted to give it a bit more focused direction, but also just more open. Because looking back to our experience, and I would love to hear your insights as well. It's more like we don't want to preach. That's your phrase that I remember. Like we don't want to preach how to be in this in these complex networks, emerging, evolving. We do want to explore together, right? And we had these principles. I think they hold. There are interesting stories like informed participation, do your own research. Like there are phrases in crypto economics and token economies that we know that these principles are out of the field. And looking at them, they all kind of point towards this concept of self-sovereignty. And what I like about that is definitely the cypherpunk self-sovereignty. Your keys, your coins, be your own bank, and all of that. And another one about that I picked up in Kernel, self-sovereign individuals govern well together. It's like a riddle. But all of them kind of also point towards the self-sovereignty that you can gain through self-knowledge. And that brings us back to our explorations about right, how we started with the 4 quadrants, and how we also started exploring more the self-knowledge, self-organization. What does it mean to participate permissionlessly across time zones, right? What do you need to declare, and what you have control over, what you need to relinquish control over to be able to collaborate, not just cooperate. So these are all concepts to be explored, in my view.
Yes, it needs like the original exploration. We came from that framework, maybe the quadrant. But what I see, like we're coming back to our origins, right? Because I remember the first quadrant like saying I, and we started saying, okay, what is the I in the space, in the token engineering space, and how this relates to the other quadrants. And we came back to the I, like, or if we empower this I to be better positioned into this quadrant with education, that's like a big step towards going into this dignity scale upside that we also saw it was important, right? What I miss sometimes is like we are so focused on the I, and we are here like exploring the discipline, right? We are in the we.
Yeah.
What are we doing here together for this discipline? So I guess it's like kind of interconnecting all the spaces we can empower the I with in a way. So maybe that's also what we're missing here.
So the context, right? Like the whole self-discovery, even the self-discovery NFT game will be in context of crypto economics, and the learning space of
Yeah.
this transdisciplinary field that is emerging.
Yes, I guess we are playing this educational space to empower the other quadrants and to say, okay, what is the context of this? How are we playing in this space? What is its characteristics? What are we doing with it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that's I really want to dig into. So, yeah, so basically that would be on the topic, and the other things are the focus group. Like I just want to say the focus group that we said, okay, we can provide space for researchers if they come up with interesting research questions where focus groups would be useful for their research as well as insightful for the token engineering community about this ethics and ethos. It's such a huge question. I don't think we can bring it to a close, but we can keep the space open um, where everyone is basically a steward of that space. Right, researchers coming in with their own funding. If there's a topic that we really burn for, we can do help them and get a proposal funded. If we can really stand behind, say, hey, if we really pose these questions and have these focus groups, it will be super insightful for the community, for token engineering community, the people participating in token economies and so on. I think it's pretty low-hanging fruit and could be very beneficial, but it of course depends on researchers, research topics, their commitment behind it, and so on. But we could keep open.
And could it be like a research project with a lab working on an interdisciplinary?
So I think
It has to
it
be really
always
token
should.
engineering.
Yeah, the token engineering ethics and ethos, token engineering commons, it has to revolve around that. And
Okay.
the outcome, like the outcome should be really something of insight, of use, that we can attest that is really a contribution to the token engineering commons, like the public
Okay.
good. But as you always say, like these type of research do produce knowledge, and that definitely is the common good of
Yeah, it's
token
like the
engineering.
warm data. Maybe Jean is thinking more about having like live discussions and performances, and maybe within those, like these ethics and ethos can be explored and is part of the commons, right? Or how do we research on those in with the living organisms? So maybe
I mean, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, the ethical. I mean, I think today you cannot create an ethical, common good that is not based on interdisciplinary collaboration. So it would enhance. But yes, of course. I mean, this type of research do produce some, academic knowledge and publications and blah blah blah. But you. Okay, but let me think. It just wanted to understand and
So I
know. I
think
mean,
it is broad enough, and the focus group, well, it can take many forms, I do believe. The minimal form is this some form of mediated discussion group, right? Open, and then questions being analyzed. But I can totally imagine that doing it in a more dynamic and more interactive or even in-person way. And if you have something that's burning that we need to do, as you know, when people come around, these community gatherings, Paris, Berlin, Madrid, Barcelona, these are typical places where also in person things could happen. It could be also the crypto commons gathering. I think that's what Felix and Lydia did with the second focus group. It happened alongside the crypto commons gathering end of August. So it was part of an event, if you will, right? It's I can imagine things like that being happening. The only thing would be that there's commitment behind some vision. The group can help to, if they are motivated, can help to figure it out together, etc. So it's quite open. But again, it's not. I really don't want to put a work on us. because definitely this group, and if you want to have also more token engineers involved, it's just little time. Like people stay away
Hmm.
just because they heard it's a working group, right? For example, token engineering tech labs, right? I know that Sean tried hard to get it uh, off the ground, but then at the end, they have to also take care of their own org, running the project. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I want this that we take that into consideration definitely. Like I think that's open space still that can be used and can be useful. Okay, and the other part, the conscience library, business as usual. I think we got this covered.
Look, I love the Consilience library, but I think it's taking too much space at this time, so we really need, because it's like, yeah, it's the original thing that we gather around, but it's like, I think it's taking too much space. Yeah, no.
I think so too. So
Yeah.
that's why, yeah, like definitely. But we also want to deliver definitely behind it
Yes.
in a sense. But that basically said, okay, it should be alternating. Like 1 week, we really go into these topics on why we started this working group and continue the exploration, right?
Hmm.
And the other would be then always as every other week would be token engineering conscience library, and it's really almost there. And I
Yeah,
believe
you're
this
almost
group,
there. Yes, yes, that's true.
yeah, this group can continue be the shepherd, steward, fanatic of the conscience library to spread the word. But the implementation basically just needs, yeah. mm, One way or the other, some form of tooling. We are going to have this discussion, I'm sure, still about what tooling to use when, but that's not a complex question. That's a technical question. It might be complicated, but it's nothing that should take too much space or time. Really. So I would just help moderate through that landscape. That should be fine. So basically, Letty and everyone, I don't think anyone else is new to this. So we could basically put this on the forum. It's good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
thanks. Yeah.
here, participation is self-funded. It's just to make things easy. But also we can add a twist to it with the token engineering commons that. But that's maybe we put at another point, especially if we have found a rhythm where really token engineers love to come here to like a sounding board almost, right? The sense making sessions, like a sounding board that they really come here and share insights. Um, Also share their difficult questions and more or less about these finding directions and so on. And that exploration and that you know path of wisdom or embodying the wisdom of Web3 here, if we if we have that, I think that will definitely something that people will support. That just that space and that people are participating, but I don't think it will be uh, you get tech or any other remuneration to explore token engineering ethics and ethical decision making or decision making in these complex systems. But more like, wow, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. interesting, just a few days ago, I had this feeling exactly when I just read a tweet from Trend, and I really felt so thankful that people like that are in the Token Engineering Commons. Uh,
What was the post about? What was he writing about?
Said he was saying basically, a lot of these projects now will be tested, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And there you have either you just pay, and how is it called? You know it better than I. That you like settling a case and so on. You just pay and settle a case, and basically uh, all of these discussions and discourse that should be public, how the self-sovereignty providing technology is changing or helping society to reprogram, uh, and that is human right. Right, it is in my view it goes really into the depths of not code is law, but that is our freedom to explore, right? Of course, where does that freedom end? um, um, before Way before you harm anyone else. But like these safe spaces for experimenting, for reprogramming, rewiring value flows, uh, learning, all of that we need to keep those, and we need to keep to our principles, right?
Yeah,
I
because if
think
we don't have
his
them, we
tweet,
don't have the space to keep just discussing all things and reprogramming and saying, okay, there is another way maybe to just to code and to develop these tools, which ultimately they want us to provide with new systems, right? If we don't have the
yeah,
space to, soundboard sense making, it's gonna be
exactly.
like business as usual.
And it will take people to who are principled, who don't just sell tokens or
Yeah.
market tokens, but actually are really really into the rewiring of society's infrastructures, right?
Yeah.
That they stand the ground, they learn how to also communicate well, and so on and so forth. So that if
Yes,
we
because
can provide that,
I think we talk about this also. Like, we cannot program or design ethical codes or algorithms or systems if we don't embody those values, right? It's like internal,
exactly.
external is the same.
Exactly, and we really need to get back there. So it is so important. It is so important to understand. And again, it goes back to okay, motivations, shaping behaviors. Where does behavior come? And that alone is a huge. All disciplines have a part of an answer to it, and so on and so forth. So we cannot really stand this new ground if you don't really go deep into. And the other part, so
I had a
yeah,
little question on this actually because I saw that you posted on the thing about like the psychology paddle and then like adding like other things to it. But also in reference, I'm just reading like seminar 7 on the ethics of Jacques Lacan. It's like a whole seminar just on ethics and psychoanalysis. So my question is basically, if it relates to token engineering, is it always approached through the behavioral sciences, or is this much broader? Because often I feel when the psychological approach to a token system or a kind of a crypto-economic, a kind of self-sovereign system which kind of functions through trustlessness and code, often then the psychology or the subject is kind of
Yeah.
approached from a kind of object-oriented way, which then kind of also usually affects this kind of ways of subjectivity within those systems if they're already predefined as a kind of behaviorist system. So yeah, that's a bit where my mind is going.
Yeah, but can I add something? I mean, Steph, about this Jacques Lacan, way of, I don't know why it's noisy, I'm sorry. Jacques Lacan, I think he wasn't questioning his own subjectivity when analyzing behaviors and subjects. So for me, there's another step which is when you are analyzing like Lacan or others, if how much are you working on your own subjectivity in the way you are looking at this? I don't
No,
know if it
it
makes
has
sense.
much more to do with how the way society is perceived. So it comes very close to a kind of Kantian, like in the transcendental, like with the 12 lenses to kind of interpret the reality, like the noumena. So it kind of approaches it, but from a very different, how to say, it's more a critique of how society is made up or how money is made
Hmm.
up, and then it's given power as a symbolic ordering principle. But of course, it's a critique on the real, so subjectivity and all these things are kind of constantly perceived as an empty space around which there is given meaning. So then to kind of think about the sovereignty within a token engineering context, if it is always seen through the lens of like behaviorist systems, it's a very limited lens. So there I'm a bit
Yeah.
like thinking that it's
Uh,
not always the scientific world view, which can be that would be a psychosis within the Lacanian sense that it always ends down to this kind of objective scientific way of seeing things. That would be a very problematic situation.
yeah. I think that the best current or what we do agree on is like ethics of engineering, ethics of experimentation. I think these are the things that most uh, with token engineering are clear, also coming from ethics of uh, AI or data. These are the
Mm.
things that are more or less mainstream. Sorry about if the audio is noisy. So that, but again, that too is not sufficient. So we should definitely open it up, and the question would be, how could we make that accessible? Like when you say Lacanian, you're definitely coming from the philosophical background, and you have this background, which I don't. For example, how could you explain this? Is it about the when I Google, I find ethics of psychoanalysis? Is that what you mean, or could we
Mm.
have these
Yeah,
sessions
yeah,
where like you and others actually share these insights, say, look, this is how um, ethics or ethical
yeah. I think the access
decision
to
making.
Lacan is, I mean, like in the Jungian thing, where I see that like the whole creative imaginarium thing and everything, when we talk about shamanism or all this kind of spiritual, like the not to say it with a bad sense, but with a sense of humor, all the brouhaha, like all the things that kind of fly off in the spiritual realm, is often kind of coming from a kind of Jungian interpretation, where you have this kind of archetypal forms. And then this Lacanian stuff, you could actually approach it through like the three orders, like the order of the real, the order of the imaginary, which is all the identity, and the order of the symbolic, which is all the kind of mandates or the roles we have in society. But the real in itself is closer to the kind of real which you would see in Buddhism as the kind of shunyata, or this kind of thing that, or in the Kantian sense, this kind of beyond of the beyond, this kind of space where actually the human needs to wear a lens to make interpretation of it. So I don't know if I can. Yeah, of course, if you think about it in a capitalistic sense, as a token engineering system, that would have a critique on like how the globalist capitalist order is functioning, then of course that's a very strong position to take a critique on that system, because that system applies a certain lens to the world through an economic sense. So in that sense, it's already a political choice to think about subjectivity within that system, but not throughout that system, because yeah, that's. Anyway, so it's coming from a political background, of course, which has to do with these philosophers like Slavoj Žižek or others, or
Now, am I?
Alan Badiou. Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe um I don't want to dumb it down, but I kind of really need some practical help. Like, how could how can I know from where am I making any decisions? How can I even know whether uh, I am making a biased decision when I decide, I don't know, when I'm looking and analyzing an ecosystem of a token economy that I'm just entering? When do I know that have I provided everything that each participant is actually able, or am I actually not helping the community to take part or become self-sovereign in this whole process? Like, I really would want that to be in context of token engineering and how, like,
No, but why would you need that? Because if you wouldn't have that anxiety, then the motivation would also, the desire would resolve itself. So it should be impossible, because otherwise it would
Yeah.
lead to a kind of easy result. So that's actually what is driving the process.
We cannot do it. We
Yes, we
cannot.
can.
Well,
Yes, we can.
I think if we have something, like, uh, I think that uh, the the main point is to have something to follow, and I personally believe that nature has everything in it to show us what how is the order in the universe and in ourselves. And if I think musical language is pretty much the main, or could be a really uh, easy way to show people, and they have nature everywhere. They can just check it and compare it and be able to know, to know about it, and be able to make a decision following the the system in nature, not by their own perspective, subjectivity, and all of that. You
are
know,
you hinting towards intuition or?
no, no. I think it is completely technical. You know, is how, like the couple of drawings I sent it to you about the musical notes and octaves, and how that is connected to shapes and forms and colors and what we are. And like, if we really want to go deep into science, we should go into frequency, the study of frequency in music. Because and from there go to the different aspects of what we are, psychology and all of that. But first of all, there's something technical about frequency. And I think the music language is a huge tool to be able to put it on a board, and to be able to show it, and how it relates to another things, right?
Can that be the
The,
last I would vote for that to be the living lab.
To be what?
Our living lab to do that kind of frequency music study to connect those with the frequencies of the self-transcendence, because we are seeing here dialogics. And I see it's both. It's like the technical and the intuition is both the frequency and the education and the knowledge. So I would love
Yeah,
to.
yeah. The intuition is already manifested, but
Yeah,
in the background there's a technical aspect that we are not being
yeah.
aware of. You know. So I think
Yeah.
we can learn that part and then look at the manifestation of that, so we can understand,
Mm.
you know, what's going on inside and out, and you know,
But
Do you
everywhere.
mean that we understand our human interpretation of what we think is natural music?
Yeah, like I think that what I mean is that if nature is made out of music, is made out of frequency, and it follows certain laws, right? And do it in certain numbers and certain, that it's is all reflected in the language music, in the scales and how it works, and the Fibonacci sequence is related to it, and how we all follow that movement. We are part of it, so
Um, yeah,
you know.
I'm not so sure about that, to be honest. Like, I think I don't want to say anything about it's right or wrong. I just want to say that this is kind of a human invention, no? Like, we come up with that as human beings.
Of course, like the octaves, if I say there is a D, for example, a note D is not D. It's just we're trying to quantify something inquantificable. I don't know how to say it in English.
Unquantifiable.
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
actually,
so
yeah, for the lens of quantity.
so there is no note. An A is not an A. It's just we're calling it that way and put it on certain patterns to be able to read it, to be able to understand it. But it's not like that. It is completely out of. It's
yeah, it's
infinite.
so funny. It's so
Yeah.
funny because I was using the example of music from this a musicologist, Michael Spitzer, who wrote a history of music and was explaining how much the invention of the scores were a way to control actually people by making like the difference between music as an experience and a creation that anybody can do it, and he was explaining how much a music piece became an object and a composer started to exist at this time. So for me, all this questioning about the being aware of your own subjectivity it's just changing the lens of it's first questioning the objectivization of everything. Like we really went with this idea that we have object to study, that there's separation, that we are in the center of the observation. And so, for me, a way to question that and to question this last stage of all the destruction pattern of consumer culture is also to figure out how can we think how can we think at ourselves or at the world where we are not at the center. I mean, can we imagine the world? Can we think the world without having ourselves in the center? And that's for me something that is
Hmm.
impossible so far.
Well, yeah, it's a. Well, first of all, I don't believe that we invented music. I think that we discovered it in nature. It was already happening
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the
The thing
time.
is,
You
like,
you
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 know,
remind
we,
me
we,
of
we be,
but then
that
in the
reminds me of
Hegelian sense, they
the
also invented the nature.
sorry, I couldn't
Like the
listen any of.
nature, yeah. Like if we invented the music or we discovered it in nature, then the idea of nature, what I as a I don't know, as a kind of thing made out of certain things is kind of perceiving to be nature. is also a kind of human invention. Like what nature is kind of very difficult to describe if not in this kind of anthropocentric point of view, because how can I describe nature if I kind of leave my human perception of what I believe nature to be? So that's a
Yes.
bit where I'm
Yes.
thinking about, and
Uh,
what can
I
the
if
think
we
it's
if we
society
go
add?
back to this quadrant, and the thing is, I would love to actually, um, how can we find a form of discourse or presentation where, for example, I would love to hear more from Within the Vacuum about this, right? And then uh, go with the insights, but at the same time, yes, question it. But then I don't think we are currently capable of, or not even answering. How can we make this discussion such that we actually have insights, instead of throwing opinions at each other?
Yeah,
And when you
yeah,
ask like what is nature and so on, maybe we can make use of these just to keep us a bit grounded, and then also like you can objectively, right, uh, you can observe and measure, but you can also experience and interpret. And yeah, I can do
yeah,
that with music, I can do that with nature, but then back to token engineering again.
yeah.
Why we
The
are here, like
comment
why are we even asking? Because in these systems that we are engineering, there is this interpersonal space. We are interfering with people's freedoms. We're talking about shaping behavior, which can be good or bad, which can be manipulated, which can be for the good, which can be harmful, which can be consented, but there are unintended consequences. How can you consent to that if either the people designing systems nor the participants can be sure of it? But then when they are like, I would rather help us to get into uh, these exchanges, which I love, but in a sense where we actually also get something helpful out of it. I either uh, and like how could we prepare each other or us to actually have meaningful exchange?
But I think the meaningfulness here is exactly in bringing the concept of nature within the ethics of a token engineering system, because to juxtapose culture and all our human, oh so badly ways of making culture with then the natural way that things are, is of course like the ethics of nature is quite a horrible thing if you really think about it. So how to think about an ethical nature? Like
You
nature
mean
doesn't
like
care that there's
the
human beings or planets or whatever. So
No, no. I think is the opposite. Like we have the exactly perfect amount of oxygen and the mix of elements that sustains our lives.
yeah,
That
for a
means
few
that
billion years.
it's been really, really, really ethical about us. Like nature.
But yeah, but
And
what's ethical about like a huge population of humans burning up because the sun expands?
well, there's another level of movement that we have allowed. Like we have a certain amount of freedom apparently, and we need to learn how to manage it. It's
Exactly.
not nature's fault. Like it's but I think that perspective is just a tool. It's a tool because there's no rules. You can do whatever you want, and you can move around and merge scales and jamming out with the human instrument into the composition of life. There is no a correct scale to follow, you know. But it could be helpful to have those tools in hand,
Yeah,
just
and
to,
it's really super,
you
super
know.
helpful. And I'm just looking or thinking about like these practical examples that we want to bring forward here, like having these artifacts. And I'm saying that this can be discovered through our participants too, because we are seeing the holons here, and we see if we go upwards to the upside to the exterior, those are the higher frequency as we see in the self leadership and this one. So we are going expanding from the apathy, dissatisfaction, and so this frequency are really manifesting the other self mastery and self transcendence. So if we can measure and monitor how the system, how the participants, how the different characteristics operate within the system in ourselves and in the development, it's like the harmony of the music, really. So we will be developing 100%. So we can just mess with that. It's like it's objective too.
Cool. You just found the frequency connection.
Yeah, it's the point of frequency.
And you can choose whatever notes in the scale you're building, but there are some notes that sounds better than others, you know.
Harmonious.
Yeah,
Harmony.
exactly.
Like
Very simple.
just going through the next frequency. It's like you need a dissonance to come back. And if you go in the function, you come back and then you go forward. Yeah. So it's all frequency.
Cool. So what would be also super helpful, I mean, we always only have an hour. I would love to extend and so on, but what would be also helpful is if people who resonated, who have something that who basically within the vacuum staff and so on, if you can share some links so that people can follow what you had in mind, so we
Yeah,
can
definitely.
pick up on your perspectives or what you had in mind and so on. Kind of
But
would
what
love
I could
to.
do is just on a very short note. I think I can build a bit more on what I've been like thinking about and what I left a bit out. But then I'm thinking still of like a form where links can be shared, which is not only in the Discord thread, because I feel there it always gets snowed under and it's like so much
Yes,
to
you're
go
right.
through. I'm gonna think a bit about how to put something that can be like navigated and somehow click already the curations there. I'll try to make up something that works and is not just on a Figma board.
What if we just use this, uh, um, like taking notes in an agenda? Number one, we would have them in order of appearance. Like I think I don't know. I can connect at where it's like, okay, this is when we had met and we had just discussed the topic bucket and so on, and then we had this discussion about music, frequency, connection, like then connection to the self circles, but then also um, what did you say? Ethics of nature.
Harmony.
Also, yeah. Yes. Um, I think like there are more insights, and what I just wanted to show you is because I do believe it's for it actually is super practical where this could go into. I don't know if you remember, like we were also in discussing the conscience library, the design of it, and so on. And also in other token projects that we really almost in a common sense, like everyone is going, oh, okay, it's not just the smart contracts, it's literally the user experience, the user interface, and then it's how people work or collaborate or not together. That all of that determines the environment in which these tokens are engineered, right? So the system, engineering the system. And that again is about how people relate to each other, how people work together, whether they know how to collaborate. And then we're talking about self-organization, self-organized systems. There too, it's about really locating yourself, locating the others, and then finding harmony, or even understanding, as this an harmonious exchange, is there this harmony, and then also having or building the capacity to be able to together find out where the this harmony is, and increase the frequency, or find the common tune or notes. So, and one, yeah, and that basically is leadership and self-leadership, more or less. And what I had found are super practical things to super practical and super epiphanies. Like, you have to breathe, get your physiology back in order to be able to interact in harmonious space, right? So things like this, I believe this group was fantastic to figure this out. So it would be really, really great if we can continue, if you can share what you, or shares a bit more background to what you brought in, so people can follow the views, and maybe we can continue these exchanges. Yeah, in questions Discord is the exchange, but if you have people, or if you can share any links to what you shared here in here, I think we can build on this, right? Build from a week to week, and if we can go into our reflection, self-reflection spaces, and also apply what we're learning from each other in the projects we're active in, and come back here, I think we can really build on this, and these are super insightful in my view.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
The cool thing is that, you can go into the whole the dissonance you want to, right, or not. There is no rule. There is no
Yeah,
rule for music.
yeah, yeah. No, no. My husband, for example, he always loves really songs where the singer is a bit offbeat.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know his music from that. Like, it's a signature that he resonates with, and so on. So
yeah.
it's really
It's playing around with the tempo. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that
All of those terms, have a reflection on real things, right?
yeah, I believe so, and I can totally relate now. Please share more, because I think these give us also not just metaphors, but actually
Hmm.
applicable patterns, but also
Yeah.
good metaphors to explain uh, how we want to collaborate, like jamming, right?
Yeah.
Improvising. If you think about jazz and so on, like, people can relate, understand that much easier. But we
Hmm.
have never done this before, in my view. I have not learned how to collaborate, really, um, in what people call knowledge work, right? So coming from corporate, where you have this typical we had this movement towards agile, but again, I can show you all the ways agile turned back into some hierarchical command control and cover my ass politics. So I can tell that nature, music, other people, artists have figured out collaboration already, and we can learn. But we need a bit more help to be able to apply this in things like token engineering. But it goes way beyond, of course.
Yeah, in the opposite, music has the aim of music is to play. You know, like kids. So it's very the opposite the opposite view from corporative
Yeah.
way of doing things, and well, it's very deep, but
But
yeah.
we're getting there. We're getting there. I mean, anyone here who's been really into Web3 and figuring out, like, we're exchanging on these topics, like, oh, it's not a game that we win. Like, we come from games theory, and it's all about who wins, who loses, prisoner's dilemma. That type of mindset is where we come from, right? But when we go into Web3 and we have this freedom, really. So there are things going around like this infinite games.
Yeah, also as personal annotation, you know, when you go in there to the forest and stay there for a while, everything like start to move again, you know, all the insects and animals and everything, it's like back to normal, you know, like they get used to you and they go out again. And what I realized is that it's all about the music. Everybody's doing music, everybody's dancing, everybody's like, you know, somebody sings something from that and the other responds. It's all it's all about that in nature. So I
Yeah,
think that that's a good
yeah,
picture.
and yeah, and totally. And people are really willing to figure out, but we have nothing to go by. Like, found a few things like radical, agile, and stuff, but it's still very militaristic. It's still very production oriented. We're coming from industrial era, and capital era, and they have playbooks that are very efficient, that create an outcome. Again, like token engineering, big, what do you call it?
And all of those.
Big open point. Sorry, just to make that point. Big open glaring issue with token engineering is actually it's about incentive mechanism design, meaning we assume we know that an outcome is we know that it's worth attaining that outcome. So we pledge to that outcome and we create systems, engineer systems, such that they have the incentives aligned to produce that outcome. And that's why actually Omega started, because I do not know whether an outcome is desirable. And oftentimes we think we know, but then when we are even on the way there, we realize, oh my God, mayhem, right? Or we're burning up the planet and so on and so forth. So I think we're ready to get wiser there as well. Like we're starting with token engineering and we're starting with mechanism design and so on. But what we're here is more like, okay, this is a complex system. Uh, like cybernetics and second order cybernetics, ethics of second order cybernetics. These are the things we can build on, but we have no practical. So that's why these inspirations are super important. Sorry, within the vacuum.
No, that yeah, all of those systems are very effective in many ways. So the idea is not to delete them, deleted them or something like that, but to make it harmonious, you know, to harmonize it in a way that we can use it, but it doesn't use us. You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
No.
I
Totally.
did my first expression of peace yesterday, and I just want to share it here. Okay.
Where are you sharing? In the
No,
Discord?
yeah, just in the chat here.
Perfect. If anyone who hadn't yet had a chance, Streamer D shared this. I think it was before the summer break about peace and so on, and then they started developing these expressions of peace. Please have a look. It's really, again, inspiring. Okay, cool. Then I would call it a day or night here. Please share your links, and I'm super happy to look through them and prepare and make add some progress. I think it will be really helpful for this token engineering space.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the call.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.